Cut.
Take two.
I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Right, follow me with this.
But they've been using their power to obstruct and stop justice from taking place.
You want to pray us out?
I do.
We'll pray for Tina. And let's have conversations about what truth is. We've all seen it. We've seen all the stuff that has to do with war, genocide. We've seen the dog whistles that have been created all over the country, all over the world for decades. President Trump gets into office. He said, look, I'm going to put to bed what's happening in Ukraine. I'm going to put to bed what's happening in that war. I'm going to create peace in the Middle East. And all of a sudden, the powers that be that walk in and say, no. We're going to create chaos. We're going to create chaos on every front because we need to stall as long as possible in order to make sure that you can't get to what is the biggest problem that we have in our country, which are fraudulent elections. We keep walking past it. No one wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to create an opportunity where they say our elections are fair and you had your chance in court. But you don't want to address the things that I think are the most important. And that is you say, I don't trust the media, but you trust the media when it's convenient for your side. You say you're going to trust the police, except for you don't trust the police and you want to defund the police. You say that we can trust the judiciary, that they had 60 cases that went through and it was adjudicated that the elections were free and fair. Then you find out that China was stealing much of the information that we had. It's pretty relevant to what we did 4 years ago related to the CIA being involved with manufacturing identities in the United States. We did a whole segment on it. Had proof, had all the fittings for it. But you say you can trust the judiciary except for they disproportionately put Black men in prison, and they own the for-profit prison system. Everywhere you turn, you find yourself more conflicted regardless of what side you're on. And at the end of the day, everyone, left, right, center, Democrat, Republican, independent, libertarian, all feel invisible. And the monkeys that stand up and act as if they represent the people rarely do. The big, beautiful bill adds $1.5 trillion in debt to the bottom line over the next decade. But it's a big, beautiful bill. It cuts out subsidies for electric vehicles. But if it cuts out subsidies for electric vehicles and those were really, really big, then where is all the pork? I dare to say that nobody's going to read it. And yet all the chaos that we face today, all the genocide and war that we have all over the world, and talking about the fact that, NATO is going to pay their fair share and 5% of their GDP is going to go towards defense budgets. We've all become the enemy of each other. Inside this country, outside there, they create chaos, which favors their opportunity, not ours as people. And more often than not, whether we're talking about the state level or the national level, we find ourselves in the same hole. What is good for the people? We fight over the ridiculous, cutting off penises and doing gender reassignment surgery and telling children at the age of 2 or 3 that don't even know what sex is, that you probably, Johnny, want to be Jonah, not Johnny. And parents, in all of their dysphoria that's going on in their head, decide that they just want to support their child. So they run them off a cliff, make lifelong decisions at a very young age. Most of this has to do with the fact that we have stolen and fraudulent elections in all 50 states. I got in a fight with a moron earlier this morning, just a complete retard, who said, oh, yeah, you and your theories and you run around and it can't be proven. So we're going to put it to bed today. We're going to bring in a couple of guests. Matt and I are going to basically break down the information from Ed Solomon, from Draza Smith, from Mark Cook, And anybody else in the middle of that decides that they want to pop on to the show. Mark's driving to Vegas right now to talk about how we can go to hand count paper ballots and make sure that it's done in person. You have to just show up. And people are like, well, that's not convenient for me. And I would tell you to suck it up, Buttercup. The most important thing that you have that leads to the demise or the success of our country and the opportunities that are presented to our children. And you can't stand in line for a few hours? Oh, that's right. But you can stand in line for 4 or 5 hours for a sporting event or to see the Kardashians in person. That's something you'll actually take the time for. But the future of your country? Now we're going to relegate that to not that important. Please let me fill it out at home. And let the fraudulent and non-transparent elections just continue all over our country. Or better yet, let's use ranked choice voting so that we can game the system and put whoever we want in a position of power and trust, as long as it's not the person that favors the people in power.
This is arguably the most important show that we have done so far, because when you have thousands of IDs being found at the O'Hare Airport in Chicago, and then you trace them back and you see that they were, in fact, many of them participating in voting in the election, fraudulent IDs, China's being tied directly to them. And the FBI was hiding that for the last 4 years. We only know about that because essentially of a now put out there memo between multiple people within the FBI talking about this and talking about how they found the IDs. Why wouldn't they make that public at the time it happened? Because they didn't want anyone to look into what was really happening in the election. Because if you find that, then what do you question next? Do you question the mail-in ballots? Do you question the voting machines? What else do you look at? How many more IDs did we not find? In fact, what percent of the total votes in the election were from fraudulent IDs? We know many of them illegal immigrant fraudulent IDs, but how many of them were also Chinese or from another foreign government? That right there is something I didn't want to have to confront, because China makes a lot of cool stuff. They make a lot of good products. I don't want to hate China, and I don't want to hate the Chinese government either. But when they're doing things like this, it kind of makes it hard to ignore. When they're trying to cover up COVID, that was the other thing they were doing with this. They're trying to influence the US elections. And we're going to put all of the evidence up and show you today. It is going to be an unbelievably big show. But when they're doing all of that, you have to start being critical. And you realize it is us versus the world at times. There really is no true ally of America anymore.
The big thing that we have to consider, and I want you to consider, is that everything's a game. Everything's kabuki theater. President Trump got on the screen. He said, central casting, central casting, central casting. It's almost as if we're in central casting. Why do you think he said that? It almost becomes obvious that everything that we're seeing and everything that we're doing is predetermined by them. They get to dictate what the outcome is. Elon Musk put up a new X. I don't know if it's him or somebody else.
Yeah, it's normally him.
And it says, follow this THISS _YOUU, as in at this you. And what it basically is boiling down to is the lack of conviction. People just kind of waffle back and forth. Like, is this you that said this? Well, you also said this. And if you look at it from the perspective of what we're dealing with holistically in our country, it literally is the stupid leading the stupid, the blind leading the blind, and the actors telling us what is and is not true on both sides. So we're going to break it down. And we've got Ed Solomon that's going to join us. We've got Mark Cook that's going to join us. We got Dreza Smith that's going to join us. Mark's going to join us via a conversation. But we have a lot to discuss today. And let's just break it down. It's 7 months into President Trump's presidency. 7 months. We have heard we need a special prosecutor to look into 2020. We need a special prosecutor to look into 2020. Well, there's a saying that says, if you're always looking in your rearview mirror, you never see what's in front of you. And 2026 is going to be a bloodbath. People are already talking about it. The narrative is already being set. And I believe it's on purpose. Excuse me. The massive amount of election fraud continues to be uncovered. But it's a slow boil. We can't solve the problem all at once. We cannot disrupt it because, Lord forbid, we actually just solve the problem at the root, rip the Band-Aid off and do the right thing. Now we're only allowed to do that when we're solving issues like bombing Iran to make sure that they don't have nuclear weapons. U.S. intelligence knew back then that they were interfering, that China was interfering with their elections. PCAPs is bullshit. There was no beaming light. They didn't come into our elections and change it. They didn't need to. See, private equity firms that have deep connections to other banking institutions overseas that we've been able to draw a line to, Dominion voting systems, having roaming networks build their substructure over in Serbia with people that were never, ever run through a background check. And if you know anything about Serbia and the wars and things that happen in that area and the conflicts that happen there, it's the wild, wild west. And you got coders that are building stuff that, frankly, there's a reason why I don't have any coders over in any other part of any other country. It's because if you tell them to build something, they will. It won't function, or it'll function exactly how you put it on paper in your PRDs and FRDs.
Or they'll leak the information through the back end
to somebody
to their
else.
government who's paying them to do that. And that's how you found them in the first place, because it was an advertisement that was put forward to you, most likely, or their government found the application and then had them fill it out. It's not secure for the most part. None of it's secure.
It's not, and everyone wants to talk about the fact that we don't understand system architecture. You talk about Alex Halderman. Alex Halderman gets out there and says, in the curling lawsuit down in Georgia, and he sits up there and he says, I'm an expert. Eric Coomer says, I'm an expert. Then Eric Coomer, in the same conversation, says, I've never written one line of code. Well, what the hell are you an expert in then, if you've never written one piece of code? And in Alex Halderman's own testimony in the Mike Lindell trial, he didn't even know what system architecture was. This is how retarded the people are that are standing up there, that are being propped up by CISA and other organizations to say, we're the safest, most secure election in U.S. history. You look at Chris Wray. You look at the people that ran CISA and ran DHS, Chad Wolf. These are all guys that had intimate knowledge of what happened in 2020. But it didn't stop in 2020. It went on in 2022 and stealing elections across the country using multiple platforms, not just Dominion voting systems. And the more evidence that comes out, Matt, the more evidence that we have that comes out, the worse that it gets. The worse it gets because we become the liars. We become the liars. They knew that the elections were stolen at every level, and they've been stealing it at a local level for probably decades. And they had to tell us what they were doing back in 2004 when Clinton Curtis literally got up on the stand and says, I built a system that allows for you to get in and get out. And if we want to talk about the fact that early on, before Dominion was Dominion, and they had this guy that worked for him, his name was Chris York, and he's like, Joe, they bragged about going into elections, changing the results, and getting out so that no one can see them. And then you talk about the structure and what they did all over the country. And they want to just dismiss it because a bunch of fruitcakes run around and say stuff like, oh, it's a paper and all kinematic, and we broke into a poll pad, and it's all bullshit. Those are all distractions that are designed to say, it's a safe election. I know that they have problems, but, for the most part, it's not a lot. They're stealing elections at every freaking level. And my biggest problem is not Israel or Iran or Ukraine, and it doesn't actually keep me secure or not secure. I don't care if Russia takes over Ukraine. I don't care. What I care about is that the American people have a voice, and they have proven that we are an inconvenience. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Do we have Ed Solomon on? Before we have Ed come on, Brendan, by the way, on Friday, you're going to want to, we're off. It's 4th of July. You're going to hang out with your babies and your wife.
Shoot off some fireworks. We bought some smoke bombs, the little tiny colorful ones that we're going to shoot off with the oldest. I think she'll have a lot of fun with that. Fully safe. Don't worry, guys, but it'll be great. I'm excited about that.
So I did an interview with Brendan, Brendan is the he's a journalist, and he's left-leaning. He's a very progressive journalist. And he'd done a write-up on me in the Westward before. And so I wanted to do an interview. I wanted to do a sit-down. So we sat down. We were late for the deal because of that interview. So that's going to be on Friday. So I'm not going to play that for you. But let's put the article up if we could. This was the Westwood article. And it says, after Mike Lindell trial, Joe Altman remains undaunted. Star witness of Mike Lindell's trial said the jury believed him and isn't worried about pending court actions. I'm not worried about pending court actions. And it wasn't, he had to satisfy the bloodthirst. I think the bloodthirst.
That's a good way to put it, I think, too.
Of the left. And so I read it on the way over, but it says, he basically goes through me. I don't really want to read all of it. Maybe can we put it in the comments? Can we put it in the Rumble and everywhere else so people can read it? But he goes through and talks about the fact that I, in fact, was found to be credible and that nothing that I said was defamatory. And he wrote a fairly good article. I don't think it was hugely complimentary, but again, you have to satisfy both sides. But here's what I figured out about Brendan, and this is one of the things that I will say. He's a nice guy. And if we didn't have 2020 or fraudulent elections to deal with, him and I could probably find common ground. So that interview will air on Friday. I think that it'll be pretty spectacular. So you'll have something to watch on Friday as well for that.
That'll be good. And that's the one I was a little bit critical of from when I did hear it, that I was worried it could be a hit piece that comes right after it. So I'm still potentially looking for that. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely a very, very, very good interview that you're going to enjoy watching.
So let's start here before we bring Ed on. We had a declassification document that came forward. Can you put that up, Matt? I know that you saw this. You actually posted it as well. You put it up.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane. And if Trump had not become president, we would never see this. We would never even know that this conversation happened. We wouldn't know what the conversation happened about, at least not from an official level. Some of us knew this was happening. We could see not only the writing on the wall, but we knew about the IDs. We could see all of the evidence. We could see the data that clearly shows election fraud happened. So we knew, but we wouldn't have known to this level without Trump being in office. So that is why I'm very excited to read this. This has just come out. It is absolutely massive. It is a bombshell. And once you see this, and after you listen to these two very intelligent gentlemen that are about to be on, it'll be essentially impossible to deny at this point what happened in the election and what will, if we don't stop it, happen again in the next election. There it is.
So it says, and this was September 29th. September 29th. Sorry, I'm trying to get it put up here. Of 2020. Now I want to point this out to everyone. Please hit the share button. You want something that's fire? This is fire. You want something that's absolute? This is absolute. September 29th, 2020.
For context, for those of you that can't do math, that is 2 months before the election.
2
so
months
they
before.
knew this ahead of time. This wasn't they figured it out after. They knew it ahead of time.
This is, what's even worse about this? This is around the same time that Eric Coomer was on the call and said, hey, don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made sure of it. Do you know why this becomes really important for all the people that are listening, including President Trump, if you're listening, or anybody else on his staff, if you're listening? You know why this is important? Let me tell you why this is important. Because they said that he wasn't on the call. He said he wasn't on the call despite the fact that he created an affidavit from Tay Anderson, who was on the call, who outlined all the things that I talked about. But all of a sudden, the guy that was accused of peddling over 60 children, that guy said, oh, but I was on that call, but Eric, I don't know an Eric. And Eric wasn't on this call. But it happened around the same time as this 29th. And why this is important is in 2020, Roaming Networks, which is actually funded by Huawei, a banking institution out of China, built the data center for Dominion voting systems in Serbia prior to the election in 2020. Roaming Networks, which had an office in Chicago, which was an upstairs office. You had to go up these steps, and it was upstairs, and nobody was ever there. The Dominion Voting Systems that literally has small shell companies all over, including in Littleton, Colorado, where we went out there. Nobody's there. They just have an address in a business park with a big, roll-up door in the back. In Littleton, Colorado, go check this. Same Dominion Voting Systems. So we have Eric Coomer that works for Dominion. He's responsible for strategy and security for Dominion Voting Systems. You have this. This is an FBI report. It was classified. It was then declassified by Kash Patel. Based on the information, based on the conflict. This is after Christopher Wray testified before Congress. Based on the conflict of this information to that of the wider USIC, the fact that it contradicts Director Wray's testimony to Congress and the importance to the current administration, I think we should be ready to back up the IIR with a minimum of the following information and treat it like it would be going in front of the president. We're skeptical of the reporting based on the portions regarding COVID that veer into conspiracy theories regarding how was source found, what is source's access and placement, source's reliability, how trustworthy is the source, how competent, knowledgeable, scale of 1 to 10, how confident is the source in the reliability of the subsource information. Is this subsource the same one who said the Chinese government had underground bases in Republican states to disperse coronavirus? Does the source believe this? Was coronavirus reported received from the same identifiable source, or was it from multiple subsources? Regarding the subsource, what is the subsource age and identities? Not for the Sentinel, but to check on bona fides. What position the agency does subsource work for? Doesn't need to be the IIR, but should be in Sentinel and the match. What access and placement does subsource have to this information as detailed as possible? The first IIR and the source context statement that contain the source obtained the information from an identified subsource who claim they obtained the information from an unidentified PRC government officials. Does the subsource have access to PRC government officials, or was the intelligence from one official? SSA, which is talking to a specific individual in the FBI, can you please send us the blank file information that you sent the SIA and discussed earlier? Thank blank and blank. Matt, as I read this, I'm not the source. I never believed that there was underground things. But it brings me back to a guy who I met with, named Charles Sam Chuck Faddis.
What a name. Wow. That's amazing.
Sam Faddis is the guy that writes the book. Chuck Faddis is the guy that came out to visit me. All are the same person, ex-CIA guy. Flew out, went to a restaurant, sat down and ate with me. Became very agitated when I was agitated with him. He asked me a bunch of questions. I answered the questions. He came with someone else that sat catty corner to the other side of the room. And then he went back and he talked to people and he's like, yeah, you don't believe this. This is not real. So that faggot, Sam Chuck Faddis, literally sat there in front of me and I was like, okay, what do you think? Now, turns out they didn't believe Chuck Faddis, which should tell you everything you need to know about old Chuck Faddis. The guy that's walking out, he just popped his head up again, by the way. CIA guy popped his head back up. And they said, hey, Joe, we need to talk to you some more. So they talked to me more after that. And then I wrote a model, and then the model came true in the Georgia runoff election. And they're like, how did this guy know this? And I was like, well, I'm clairvoyant. See, all that stuff happened. That all checks. Let's bring them all on. I'm gonna get past this. We saw this stuff with the FBI with China. And now we're going to get into the meat of Arapahoe County, Colorado. We're going to talk about the fact that they changed the cast vote records over a 4-year period of time. If we get a chance to get Draza on here as well, Draza Smith, I'm trying to get her on now. I'm going to try to do this while Ed's talking about things. Ed Solomon is a mathematician. He's brilliant. Also takes care of his grandmother. Super good dude. Was an entrepreneur, got himself into trouble. Everyone has tried to discredit his math, although if you run anything that he does through Bards, ChatGPT, Grok, anything, it'll all come back with your elections are phony. And we're going to show that as well.
Yeah,
So
it will for now until Grok updates it, and then it won't anymore. But if
It's
you
all
do
math,
it, if you
bro.
do it
It's
right
math.
now, Grok will tell you that.
So-
if you do it in a month, it probably won't anymore because of how big this is about to get. Everyone is going to be searching for it. Everyone's going to be looking at it. Trump will be investigating it directly. At that point, I can promise you, you will no longer be able to search this on ChatGPT. So if you want to see it, do that right now. But yes, this is gonna be big. It is going to be really good to be able to finally put the nail in the coffin, put the debate to rest. We know for a fact, and we're going to prove that in this show.
all right, let's go ahead and do it. Ed, welcome to the show. Mark, welcome to the show. All right, well, Mark is just online, so just at least bring them both on to. Okay. Sorry, guys, coughing. We're gonna bring him on, dude. I'm telling you, this is you putting it all together. I'm gonna need this show to literally go back and put things into my brain together about all the different things that happen with Dominion, and the fact that how are we even sitting here having a conversation? Hey, how is it that they haven't ripped John Polis and Eric Coomer and all these guys and put them in Guantanamo Bay? How did that not happen?
I would settle for Alligator Alcatraz. I think that we can throw them in there too.
All right, bring them on. Let's go. What's up? What's up, gentlemen? Oh, we got Mark in person. Gentlemen,
Absolutely. Hopefully I don't have too much echo for you.
you're fine. Ed, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right.
I went on my little diatribe because I'm just pissed.
I think we should just open up with the good old stadium picture, right?
I think we should. Now you have full access to share your screen inside of it. Then we'll take your shared screen and put it up. So let's start by doing this, Ed. For those people that don't know you, you've been looking into the election for the last 4 years. You have a lawsuit in,
Let's say nearly 5 now.
and you have a lawsuit in Nevada that the judge
Yes.
basically did what is called, for everyone that doesn't understand what it's called, sua sponte. Sua sponte means that they volunteer to throw a case out. They weren't asked to throw the case out. They just voluntarily throw the case out, right? And you looked specifically into the stuff that was happening in Colorado, Arapahoe County. Now that started because I asked you, I was like, listen, can you look at this proposition in Colorado? Can we start to expand on that? And so you started looking. Yeah, go ahead. Just go ahead and start talking.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing while I'm talking about it real quick. So when you look at an election and it's predominantly all mail-in, okay, and the ballots, there's background noise, and there's I can't talk through that.
Hey, do me a favor and just if you could just mute. Yeah, can you mute Mark? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, keep going.
All right, so there's something called the binomial probability distribution theorem, which is not as hard as you think. Basically, if you have a weighted coin that's 65-35 and you flip it 100,000 times, okay, you're going to get about 65,000 heads and 35,000 tails, okay? And we actually know the confidence band, right? At the beginning of the coin tosses, it might be very erratic, but as that goes on, that 65% chance of the becomes very, very, very flat, very expected. Okay, so if you want to say I'm wrong about that, then you have to go fight Sir Isaac Newton from the 1600s, not me. Okay, so when Joe first asked me to look at the Proposition B vote on repeal Gallagher, which, to put it generously, would double or triple your property taxes if they repealed the existing Gallagher amendment. I initially didn't see anything wrong with the ballot proposition because at every moment in time, everybody was voting pretty much the same on it, which was about 45% no and 55% yes. Compare that to the Trump to Biden ratio over time in Colorado, which was always increasing, which is insane because that means the time at which somebody's ballot was processed at the central counting center influenced their chance to vote for Trump or Biden. But when it came to the ballot proposition of Gallagher, I didn't see a constantly increasing or decreasing trajectory. I just got a very quick flat line like you would expect in a fair election. But here's the problem. See, Republicans don't like the vote, don't like to raise their taxes, okay? And Democrats do like to raise your taxes. So if the Trump to Biden ratio,
a majority of Democrats do. I would say that over 50%. It's probably
I'm going by what the data says. The data says that's what the data says.
Yeah.
So it's not an opinion, it's a fact from their own cast vote records. Okay. So here's the thing. If Democrats are voting 30% against it and 70% for it, and Republicans are voting, 65% against it, 35% for it, and the Trump to Biden ratio is increasing over the course of the election, then how is the overall yes to no ratio flat? It should also be changing over the course of the election. Now I'm going to bring up my graphs, okay? Now I'm going to share my screen so you understand what's happening here. So we're looking at the repeal of Gallagher.
Can you guys see? Can you guys put his screen up on it? Does it allow you to do that or no? Okay. So as soon as you share, Ed, it will be able to do that.
Okay. So we're looking at the repeal of Gallagher in El Paso County, Colorado in 2020. It's the biggest red county in Colorado.
It's not sharing. So if you're sharing, it's not. Okay, hold on. It's coming up now. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we're looking at El Paso County, Colorado. Okay, here's the cast vote record right here. And I have this broken up into the 7 or 8 legislative districts. How many are there here? There's 8 from districts 14 to 21 in the year of 2020. And this purple line is showing you how Trump's share of the vote is increasing in every precinct and every legislative district over the entire course of the election. Okay, so from 50 to 75%, from 25% to 30%. You got to stop that noise, Alice. Okay. Now, but what I notice is that this yellow line is the yes to no ratio on the repeal of Gallagher. Okay. So I'm like, well, how can the repeal of Gallagher be flat over time if the Trump to Biden ratio is not flat over time? And then when you go look, what you see is in every legislative district, I'm going to go from 50 to 0% here, okay, of 50 to 70, is at the rate at which Republicans were opposing the repeal of Gallagher decreases over time as Trump's share of the vote increases over time, okay? So we have a nice little picture for that, okay? And it's called the El Paso seesaw. So first you have to understand what the seesaw is. Can everybody see the picture of the seesaw on my screen?
Well, they did. Yeah, there you go. Made a little. Okay, bring it down a little bit in size.
Okay, so the way the seesaw works is pretty simple, okay? The larger the Republican vote, the more Republicans will move to the left on ballot propositions to negate the effect of their own vote.
Okay, stop for a second. You lost people at that. So say that.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you the easy way. Okay.
Keep in mind, what's easy for you, Ed, is not easy for everybody else. So you have to bring it down to a level that is just because we tend to talk past each other when it comes to these numbers. So slow down to this is important, so slow down to talk about this.
Especially when the Untamed audience shares it with their liberal family members.
Yes.
They're like, duh, what is this? Oh, is it an election fraud? Yeah, so we have to really dumb it down for them, Ed. We have to make it extra clear.
Okay. This is their goal. They want a 46% no on repeal of Gallagher in this county. Okay. In fact, they want that in every county. So if you're in a blue county, you see how the Republican is really small here?
Yeah.
But over here, he's really big. This is like a red county, like El Paso. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if the Republican vote isn't that large, they actually don't modify how they vote on the proposition that much. So they'll vote 66% against the proposition. But Democrats in every county will always vote 33% no on this proposition. And since they have this goal of 46% no, the larger the Republican vote gets, okay, the more Trump voters will start voting like Democrats on the ballot proposition. So when you get to the end, like a big red county like El Paso or Mesa, Republicans are only voting 50% against the proposition because there's a lot of Republicans there. But in Arapahoe, they're voting 66% against it because there aren't that many Republicans in there. So the larger the Republican votes, the more they shimmy up the seesaw to negate the effect of their own weight to keep the overall result at 46% no in each county. Okay. So now we see that here in this picture. You see how as the share of the Republican vote in purple is increasing on the left side graph, the opposition of Republicans in red on the right side graph is decreasing. Does everybody see that?
And it's not just that, by the way. It's that it's the same 33 in every county. That's also suspicious. So it shows you they're not just changing it on the Republican side. They're changing it on the Democrat side and the Republican side to always equal that number. I mean, this really is fascinating stuff.
So just so I'm just going to tell everybody right now, if you haven't shared this up to this point and you doubt what we're saying to you, like I personally, I will do what's called the $50,000 challenge. I will put $50,000 out if you can literally show me how this is not real. This is all done with records that are gotten from each county in the state of Colorado. This is a $50,000 challenge.
But these are the certified cast vote records, as you can see right here from the county recorders.
I'll make it $100,000.
I was about to say, well, why don't we make it $1 million?
I'll make it $100,000.
$1 million. It's impossible. You can't disprove it. You cannot disprove this because it's true. We're looking at the data. There's no way to look at that and not.
So I have to be able to get access to $100,000 quickly.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
I can get access to $100,000 quickly, right? So $100,000 I'll put down on it very quickly, and it's really simple because I want to make sure I don't have to liquidate anything. I can give you $100,000 if you can prove that anything that I'm saying is not true. That goes for you too, Alex Halderman, you lying shitbag. And it goes for anybody else that says that they're an expert. How about Angry Fleas? That guy. I mean, I know that should get Mark going. Angry Fleas, the CIA, whatever you want to call it, person that's paid for by, I don't know, maybe Dominion pays the guy to lie. But $100,000, the easiest $100,000 you've ever made. You should be able to. It's be easy. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
All right, so here we're looking at, instead of looking at every district in El Paso, like on this calculator, here we're just looking at the overall county-wide result. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, in this picture, you see the total share of the vote for Trump is in purple here. The cumulative share, that's rising from, it starts at 37% in a deep red county. God knows why. Okay. And it goes up to 55% at the end of the election. But here's the thing, for a cumulative percentage to increase at the end of the election, it actually takes a lot of force. So on the left side, you see what it looks like in every batch of ballots. Right. So again, Trump starts at 35% of the vote, but somehow is getting 65, 70% of the incoming vote at the end of the election. And there's no election day votes in here. This is only the mail-in vote, guys. Okay? Now, as his total share of the vote is going up over time, look at what's happening to the opposition rate to the repeal of Gallagher amongst Republicans. It's falling according to the seesaw. Okay? And you find this in every county in Colorado. You will not fail to find this. Trump's share of the vote increases magically in every precinct and legislative district over time, and their opposition to the repeal of Gallagher falls over time, over the entire course of the election, at a formulaic rate exactly required to keep the cumulative yes to no ratio a flat line at 45% no.
And that's in El Paso County.
El Paso, the biggest red county.
Listen, and that means that 55% of the people voted yes to
double their property tax.
And so listen, I need everyone to understand that, and this is the part that's really hard for people to understand, is that you can literally put your finger on any scale at any time using machines and mail-in ballots, because the likelihood of getting access to those, you saw what happened in Arizona, that once you get access to it, they just stuff other precincts in each one of the other boxes.
Now, you want to see the funny part of El Paso?
Yes.
Since they set they just happened to set the ratio to 45% no,
Yes.
and they set Trump's finish to 57%. Now, this is actually a coincidence, but it ends up that total opposition amongst Republicans is 57% and total Republicans is 57%.
Say that again. Say it again.
Don't worry about it. It's not something they intended to do. Now, I want to show you guys the next, the ones that are easier to understand now. Okay. And we're gonna come back to that Gallagher in a moment, but I want to look at the good old stadium picture. Okay. So, Joe, if 80% of Republicans voted against something in the early vote, what percentage of Republicans do you think would vote against that same thing in the election day vote?
I think probably
It doesn't matter what the thing is.
Say what?
I said it doesn't matter what the ballot proposition is. 80% of Republicans voted against this ballot proposition, no matter what it is, in the early vote. What percentage of Republicans voted against it?
You said early vote. Early vote
early
meaning, okay, early vote, but in person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
you're getting
Early
at that it
vote.
would be the same, right? It would be close. It should be close to the same.
No.
Okay.
In Nevada, the early vote is not the same as the election day vote.
It should be, but it's not. That's what you're saying. That's the whole point, is that there's a huge discrepancy, right, between what people are voting early versus what they're voting on election day. And the only explanation for that, clearly, based on the other data, is election fraud. That's what you're getting at.
Right. So what we see here in Nevada is that in the early vote, in the cast vote record, 80% of Republicans voted against state question number 3. And 40% of Kamala voters voted against state question number 3. But on election day, 55% of Republicans voted against state question number 3, and 26% of Kamala voters voted against state question number 3. Now, state question number 3 was to adopt open primaries and ranked choice voting in future elections, okay? Why would Republicans go from a 4-to-1 ratio? That's what 80% means. You see this football stadium? That's a 4-to-1 ratio. Why would Trump voters go from a 4-to-1 ratio against state question 3 to 55%, which is 11-to-9, which is essentially a 1-to-1 ratio? From early to election day. We're not even talking about the mail-in vote yet. It gets worse in the mail. Can anybody answer me that question? Remember, it also happens in every precinct, not just countywide.
At the same rate.
At the exact same rate. Every precinct in Nevada, this happened. Clark and Washoe counties.
So you have, and by the way, this is where it gets to statistical anomalies of things that are probable versus would happen, right?
Well, can anybody try to explain to me how this would happen in a fair election?
It's not possible. You would have a higher chance of going to Mars on a homemade rocket than that statistically being possible. That is impossible. You don't see discrepancies that big. And also in other states, similar propositions did not have discrepancies that big. Some of them did. You can tell clearly where the election fraud is and where it isn't. It's all in front of our eyes. It's all right there. How is this not a much bigger story it needs to be?
This is why
I want to show you. I'm going to show you both counties now, Clark and Washoe. Okay.
This is in Nevada. This isn't in Colorado. We're going to come back to Colorado.
Right.
And it looks like Mark is chomping at the bit too. So go ahead, Ed, and then bring Mark in.
So what we see is that Democrats fall from the mid-40s in Clark County and the mid-40s in Washoe County, and they both fall to exactly 26% oppose state question number 3 in both counties from early to election day. In the mail, sorry, in the for Republicans, they go from 72% against it down to 49% in Clark and 56% or 55% in Washoe. But if you look at all of the precincts, regardless of which county they're in, Clark or Washoe, you get the exact same thing, like a 30 to 40% drop or something in the opposition rate of Republicans and a 25% drop in Democrats. This happens in every precinct from early to election day.
Same
Okay.
thing though. Same. This is exactly the same percentages.
Now, what's more important, and this
No,
lockstep,
answer the question on here. Exactly the same percentages, correct?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it might vary by like 2 or 3%, but yeah, that's the overall drop from early
Okay.
to election day. Okay.
Perfect.
So when you see this here, do you guys see what this yellow box I'm highlighting?
Yeah.
Do you see how in the early vote, both Trump and Kamala voters are changing identically on this ballot proposition in every moment in time?
Yeah.
Here's the peak, here's the peak, here's a peak, here's a peak. They call this lockstep parallel motion. It's when both parties do the exact same thing at every moment in time. They change the way they feel on the ballot proposition equally. Everybody sees this? Okay?
So how is that possible?
It's not, it's rigged. Okay? That happens again over here between these lines. So it starts and ends in lockstep parallel motion. And this is important, Clark County. It doesn't happen in Washoe. The rates of change are not equal at any moment in time in Washoe. Okay. Now let's go. Why is that important? Remember, this is state question number 3 to adopt open primaries and ranked choice voting. Well, if we go look at the mail-in vote of Clark County, where we see this lockstep motion in the early vote, which is Clark County, we're going to go look now at Clark County's mail-in vote. Okay. When I go over the Clark County's mail-in vote on state question number 3, I get this amazing thing called lockstep parallel motion, but I get it for the entire mail-in vote. So when Republicans go up, Democrats go up. When Republicans go down, Democrats go down. When Republicans go up, Democrats go up. And this happens for the entire mail-in vote. There's about 420,000 mail-in ballots. And this happens for the first 80% of them up to about this moment. So that's about 350,000 mail-in ballots that this happened for. Okay. If we put the red and blue lines together, that is, we subtract their average difference from each other and just put them on top of each other, we get this.
Oh, come on.
That's what it says. This is what their certified cast vote record says happened in their election.
Do you see that? That means that, all right, let me put this in perspective for everyone listening. Give Mark back his mic, please. Give Mark back his mic. If you
It's comical.
it
At
means
this point.
you lined up 100 people to vote. Democrats and Republicans. They're lined up next to each other. And they voted the same way throughout the entire election at the same time. So they were clairvoyant with each other, and they knew that when you didn't vote, you did. It basically was identical. That's what that says. It basically says that there's no anomalies in it. There's no randomness to it. It's all purposely put in one place. And this is why I say that war and genocide were actually used and have been used in order to create a distraction away from the election so we get into 2026 and they can just go straight towards the narrative of, Republicans just went too far and the Democrats won every election, took back the House and the Senate, and then they decided that they were going to impeach President Trump. How much you want to bet that's what's happening? Help me, Ed. Am I wrong? Mark?
All right. So while we're on lockstep parallel motion, Mark isn't talking at the moment. Now let's talk about what happened in Arapahoe County, Colorado. So everybody sees this graph right here. This is Nevada.
Yes.
Okay, that lockstep parallel motion.
All right, guys, listen, pay attention to this specifically because let's say that this happened in one state. It's an anomaly. It's, by the way, 1 million or 1 in 1 millionth chance to the 27th power that this
Yeah, it's
actually
some
happened.
astronomical number that can't happen.
You have a better chance of being hit by a fire truck.
You have
On
a
the
better chance
38th floor.
of getting hit by a quasar jet from the other
Or
side
is
of the
this a
universe.
9/11 reference? Is that where we're going with this?
No, listen.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
about the same chance of the Twin Towers falling by just a terrorist
Worse.
attack and no coincidences.
And this is why I think that you'd have to be a retard, a massive retard, not to understand what we're talking about. And this is why I say it doesn't take rocket science to figure this out. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out what we just wrote. Now you have a report that says that, and they're asking whether or not the source is credible. Well, look, I've been destroyed in the media. They've canceled me from every platform. Every platform they've canceled me twice, 3 times on X, 3 times. Once after Elon took over, I got canceled.
And every day again with the followers being
And then I get 1,000 a day because I know that the person that runs X is the CEO. She's a deep state. She's a massive, what do you call it? Jewish person, atheist. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But nobody is credible except for the people that aren't credible, like Christopher Wray, who lied on the stand about what was happening in the FBI and lied on the stand about what was happening in our country. The same week that Eric Coomer is out there saying, don't worry about it, Trump's not going to win, I made effing sure of it, who happens to write about, killing the president, killing police officers, hating the Republican Party, thinking people in Texas are terrible, posting the Antifa manifesto, the same guy that lied about running into a building and ran in and drank shots, swallowed up shots, who has a Satan tattoo on his arm. That guy who writes about raping his wife and peeing on her and making her bark like a dog. That guy who runs 50% of the vote of the American people, in the same week the FBI does this, who happens to be in lockstep with CISA on the call on November 3rd, on the call. Eric Coomer's on the call with CISA, November 3rd, November 4th, safest, most secure election in U.S. history. And yet nothing happens. Go tell me about Arapahoe County, because they called you just a man, almost like they were talking about Florida man.
They were so afraid to say my name in their report. I've never seen such fear. Like Voldemort and Harry Potter, he who must not be named. Okay, that's like me.
His name? They didn't use his name.
They're so afraid that people will look up what I'm saying if they say my name. They don't even say the name of the court case, which is Andy Thompson versus the Secretary of State of Nevada. They say in some court case. Why don't you name the case? Okay. Anyway. So, okay, once again, we have Clark County 2024 in front of us from Nevada. This is the right side image, okay? Trump and Kamala voters voting identically, or in the case of Nevada, changing identically at every moment in time, okay? Here's Arapahoe County 2020 in Colorado on the repeal of Gallagher.
What do you see?
Well, that's the
Republicans
problem.
And Democrats. That's identical.
Yeah, it's the most obvious thing ever. It's identical. And I don't know if Mark, can you hear us right now? Because I would love to bring him in as well.
Yeah.
To comment on this. And I do have a question for you, Mark, after you give your initial comments. But if you can hear us, what do you think about this? I mean, this is undeniably one of the biggest revelations that has come out since the election. Everyone was saying stolen, fraudulent, but there wasn't a lot of evidence to back it up. There wasn't a lot where you could say certifiably, see, I told you. And now that is coming out, we have an opportunity to disprove every single one of those people. And I think it's huge. So Mark, if you I don't know if you can hear us. You may not be able to.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just trying to park my trailer here.
Mark, tell everyone where you are right now first. Let's start there.
I just pulled into Las Vegas, getting ready to do a presentation in front of a bunch of people here tonight. Just came from North Vegas up in Reno for about, I think I was up there 2 or 3 days, gave 3 presentations in that time period, trying to help people understand where we're at with this stuff. And I think the point that a lot of people are missing are the people that are doing this don't give a flying F that we're figuring this out. They don't care. No amount of evidence is going to change their mind. They know exactly what they're doing. They don't give a F. So we have to change our approach in how we're doing this. We're up against criminals that absolutely know what they're doing. Now, there's some people in the middle that don't understand. They truly have believed the real big lie, which is that, that a group of people think the elections are being stolen and they're not being. Well, they are. They are. So really, it's helping educate those that don't quite understand how all this works. And they're about to have a big wake up moment at some point. Hopefully, it might be before they die, that they realize that our elections actually are indeed being rigged, and they are being lied to by a whole bunch of people that have been telling them the whole time that we're all crazy and that the elections are perfectly fine and safe and secure. And the people that are being lied to the most are our good election officials, our good clerks, and other types of election officials across the country. I've talked to a lot of them. They truly believe the people above them because they don't know any better. And the thought of realizing that they have been lied to and they've believed these lies for all this time is too frightening for them. So they don't even want to look. I had clear evidence that I could have handed someone, a clerk, in fact, that she said this didn't happen. I said, no, I've got the proof actually that it did. I've got it right here. It's black and white. It's really simple, basic stuff. I said, would you like to see it? I have it right here. And she said, no, I don't want to see it. And that right there, that speaks volumes. The people that have believed the lie all this time don't want to see it because they don't want to realize they have lived a lie. And then they have in turn lied to all these other people that have blindly believed them. The fear is too great. So we got to help educate the people in the middle. We're never going to convince the criminals that there's election fraud. They already know.
All right,
They
but
don't give it up.
Mark, let's be honest though, okay? As we talk about this, let's be honest. I actually don't care about the left. I don't even care about the people in the middle. What I care about is President Trump and the administration doing the right thing and not getting on a stage and saying there's nothing we can do because we don't have a data guy. We're walking past the information that we're presenting right now. I mean, 1 in a millionth to the 27th power. What you just saw in Arapahoe County is 1 in a millionth to the 95th power. Actually, my calculator broke.
The number is so large. It's 10 to the 945th power.
They don't care.
Right. That's
they don't care.
Anyone that hasn't fixed zeros.
This, if they don't want to look at it and they haven't fixed it yet, they don't want to fix it.
Yeah, there's something called conformative bias, which is basically the idea that when it's publicly agreed upon or enough people believe something, when the majority of people believe it's not going to be rigged or it isn't rigged, then other people just blindly kind of go along with that. And they'll say, okay, well, most people believe that. This is what we're told. I'm not even going to look into it, even if I'm on the opposite side. I don't care. That's the general consensus, so it must be true. And so then when you start to present evidence like this, people say, okay, well, I believed for the last few years that it wasn't true because everyone else believed it. So now I'm going to ignore this evidence. Now I'm not going to register it in my brain. But at some point, when it's this overwhelming, when you see this clearly what the data shows, you can't do that anymore. At some point, you have to say, I don't care what everyone else says. I don't care if there's an investigation or what's going on at the highest levels. This is clear. This is obvious. And we need to be the people to change the trend and to start it and to fix it.
What's important here is that this is the state certified data. This isn't my data. This isn't Mark's data. This isn't your data. This is the publicly available cast vote record that anybody can download on a .gov website. And all I'm doing is graphing you what that data tells you, not what I'm telling you. And it says that Democrats and Republicans are voting identically on a ballot proposition in every batch of ballots. It says that Republicans are going from 80 to 50%, 80% no to 50% no from early to election day. It says that Republicans go from 75% no on abortion to 55% no on abortion to 37% no on abortion in 3 different states from early to election day to mail-in. That's what their own data says.
Yep. And so someone has to explain how that happened. legitimately, not the bullshit excuses we get, legitimately take a look at it and explain it. Because what we're seeing here and what Ed's found,
they have to explain how it happens in every precinct.
Of course, they just need to start with one. I'd be happy to start with one. So here's the issue. When you look at election data, you can look for patterns, and normal election results don't have patterns in them. They look normal. When you have election data and it has strange, unnormal, inorganic patterns in it, that is indicative that someone is manipulating it. And one analogy I use is this. When you have a balloon that people bend into shapes and, you know, create these little cartoon characters, right? Create animals. When you squeeze part of that balloon, and you compress, let's say, the leg of the creature, right? The air goes somewhere else in the balloon. The other arm blows up. You get a bulge somewhere else when you squeeze one part of it, goes somewhere else. That's essentially what they're doing with the data. In order to mold the data to look like what they want it to look like, they squeeze it in one place, and when they squeeze it in one place, that information's got to go somewhere, and if it's squeezed in one place, it's got to expand in another place. It moves somewhere else in the data. They're just shuffling data around using the data that is already in existence, and that's what Ed is seeing. Ed is seeing the patterns of the data as they move it around. They squish it around to other places. He has a way, and it's actually, anyone can redo this. Anyone can duplicate that work. It takes a little bit of time, but or you can do it in Excel. Anyone with basic math skills and basic Excel skills can do it. It's simple. A lot of people overthink it. They think it's too complicated for them to understand because Ed is absolutely brilliant. But what he's doing is he's explaining a very simple concept. He just comes across as a very brilliant person because he is. So most people, they tune out and they think they're too stupid to understand it. And that is not the case. It's actually quite simple to understand. And he's created a great way to look at it, to find which races the air moved to that shows the artifact of things being manipulated. And so we have to all start taking a look at it. If you know any math majors or you know people that are good with Excel that don't quite believe this stuff, ask them to sit down and take a look at it. And Ed, I think, has some great videos that walk through step by step how to do it. And I'll tell you what, Ed, tell me what has happened when you've had someone that was skeptical. Sit down, take the time, willing to look at the data in the way that you look at it. And when they see it finally with their eyes, what have you experienced?
All right. So that was, this has happened quite a few times, but the most notable one was Professor Max. Okay. And I showed him that lockstep motion in Arapahoe County where both Trump and Biden voters in 2020 voted identically in every batch. And he knew right away, this is a guy that normally debunks other fake physics papers for overfitting models and making up data to get published. Okay, so this guy is very good at what he does.
What's it called? Decay models.
Yeah, so whatever he was doing. So he's basically the guy everybody's afraid of in the journals in astrophysics because he will debunk your shitty fake PhD study, and then you'll have to go figure out you have to get a new career basically. Okay. Hey, so Max takes a look at it. He's from I'll look up where he is. And when he sees, I showed him other graphs before that, and he was coming up with all kinds of crazy excuses for how this could or could not happen in a fair election. But when he got to the Arapahoe County one, where everybody voted the exact same, I saved it for last. Okay. He looked at it and he said, "That's impossible." And then he said, "I think you made that up. I don't believe that that's in the cast vote record because that's impossible." He says, "Where do I get this cast vote record?" So I said, "Well, go to arapahoe.gov transparency. You can download it right there." I didn't have to tell
show us, by the way. Show us. Show us how easy this is. Okay. Just so everyone understands that.
I can actually do this live if you want. It's not that hard.
Do it.
Okay. So you go to Arapahoe County. Okay. This is actually a very easy thing to do. It's very quick to do. Well, actually, no, because they have the new cast vote record there. They don't have the old one. Remember, they changed the cast vote record?
Well, we can talk about that, but show them where you can do this, though.
Okay,
we were able to prove that they changed the cast vote record. 4 years later, by the way, they changed the cast vote records to cover up their crimes because we were talking about it way back when.
Here's their statement regarding the 2020 general election redacted cast vote record, where they explain why they changed it 4 years later. But anyway,
they put this up in Word format.
But anyway, let's just suppose they hadn't changed it yet. Okay. Then all you do is, okay, you download the cast vote record from their website as it is. Okay, everybody sees that there. And then you go to downloads. Okay, we're going to extract that just real quick. Yeah, whatever. Okay, now we're going to open that in Excel. Okay. And it's going to pop open. And then we're just going to put in. And then once this is loaded, all we're going to do. Well,
center the link. Sorry, go ahead.
Takes a few seconds, but it'll get there. I'm going to close the El Paso one real quick. And then we're just going to make 4 columns, yes and no on about Trump, Biden, and yes and no on a ballot proposition. Okay. And we're going to take those directly from the cast vote record. And then we're just going to say, did you vote for Trump and yes, or Trump and no? Did you vote for Biden and yes, or Biden and no? Okay. That's all we have to ask. And once we do that, we can create, as soon as Excel wants to fucking behave. Okay. As soon as we, sorry.
This is not nuts. This is not nuts.
You know, a lot of people's eyes are open right now. And that's the beautiful thing about this, because I'm going to ask in a second.
All right. So here it is, guys. Look, this is Arapahoe County's cast vote record. I just downloaded. Now, you're not going to see lockstep parallel motion here because they changed the cast vote record. Okay.
Which we're going to show them. We're going to show them where they justified that.
So here is Biden and Trump. So I'm going to take these 2 columns. Okay. Then I'm going to take the cast vote record number. I'm going to put it here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get the yes and no vote on the ballot proposition, which is Constitutional Amendment B. Here's the yes vote. Here's the no vote. Okay. So this is yes. This is no. This is Trump. Okay. And this is Biden. Okay. Okay. We're going to delete these top things here. Okay. Now what we're going to do is take this. It's going to sort that by the cast vote record number, which is the order in which the ballots were processed at Central County. Okay. And now we're just going to open up 4 gates, which tell us if it's a Trump no ballot, a Trump yes ballot, a Biden no ballot, or a Biden yes ballot. Okay. So Trump no, Biden no, Trump yes, Biden yes. This is all you do. Okay. And you just put in bit and Biden, Trump, and no. Okay, so C2, E2, you're going to put a pound symbol. Now, some of these ballots are redacted, so you'll get an error. So if that happens, okay, we just put in if error, and we're going to put in a 0. Okay. Oh, these aren't dynamically generated. Hold on, I have to get the total count of ballots. Oh, God, sometimes this shit can be so annoying, guys. All right, I'll just do it I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. Okay, so we're going to put in if error bit and C2 colon Trump to the bottom, E2 E to the bottom. So that's Trump and no. Okay. Then we're going to do Biden no. So that's column B, which is Biden, and column E, which is no. Trump yes, CC and DD. So that's Trump and yes on the proposition. And now finally we have Biden and yes, column B and column D. Okay. Now all we care about is the accumulation of these votes. Okay. So this is going to be Trump no, Biden no, Trump yes, as they accumulate over time. Scan 0, the array. We have to do it the old-fashioned way because it's not responding to the pound symbol here. F2, you type in lambda AB A plus B. Okay, and this will give you the accumulation of these ballots over time. Just drag it over. Okay. And now we're just going to graph according to the ballot number. And then we're going to do Trump. This is the percentage of Trump voters opposed, so the percentage of Biden voters opposed. Okay. We're going to put Trump here. We're going to put Biden here. Okay. This is where my red and blue lines come from. Red for Republican, blue for Democrat. I'm just going to put in Trump no over Trump no plus Trump yes. So that's the percentage of Trump voters that are opposed to the repeal of Gallagher. And then we're going to do Biden no over Biden no plus Biden yes. Okay. Over here, we're going to get a few errors here because there's no Trump votes yet. It's going to replace that with the default of 1/2 or 50%. Okay, now after that, we're going to drop these to the bottom. And then we're going to graph them. Okay, so here's the percentage. Here's the ballot number. Okay. Then you go ahead and you graph it. And it shows you if I put this in the correct color.
Which is
Okay.
what, by the way, that's what an election should look like.
Kind of
Right.
what it should look like. It's better than the first one where they both voted identically on every batch of ballots. That's for sure. Okay.
But
So
it should be, you should have it settles down, right? I mean, you'll have small
Yes.
variations over time because people vote similarly.
Yes. So that's the Biden, that's the Trump opposition percentage. Okay. I can't sit here and make the graphs pretty because that will waste too much time. Now, how do we do the immediate share of the batch? Okay. Oh, that's not as hard as it sounds. So that's the Biden no percentage for every these are the cumulative percentages. Okay. So how do we get it for every single batch? Okay. For every single batch, we just do this. We're going to go to Q 10,000, which is about 10,000 ballots forward. We're going to take whatever Trump's, going to take whatever the values are.
This is the really boring part that people won't watch. So I just want
Well, I'm going to do it right now. In 2 seconds, bro.
Come on.
I'm going to drop this to the bottom. All I'm doing is subtracting the result from 10,000 ballots before it. Okay. That's all I'm doing. And this will show me what the moving share looks like over a 10,000 ballot window.
Right.
Okay. So once again, I'm going to put it here. And if you did this in the original cast vote record before they changed it, okay, you would have had Democrats and Republicans voting identically. You see the blue and orange line?
Yeah.
They would have been identical, just as you see here. This was the old cast vote record. Okay. The new cast vote record, which you can see looks just like the picture I have in front of me.
No. Listen. That's Nevada. Bring me the ones that are the Arapahoe County.
This is Arapahoe County right here.
Okay. We go to the top.
This is Arapahoe. This is old Arapahoe.
Okay. Got it.
This is Nevada. Okay. The one on the right is Nevada. The one on the left is old Arapahoe before they changed the cast vote record. Okay.
So they changed they basically shuffled them.
No, they did a lot more than that.
Okay, tell me what else they did. And can you do me a favor while you have control of the deal? Can you I'm sure I can send it to her.
From a technical standpoint though, I want to know how did they achieve this? What did they do within the system that you believe was able to get this outcome?
The old one or the old cast vote record or the new cast vote record?
Both. How did they get the cheating result? What did they do to do that?
Okay, so for the old cast vote record, they made a mistake. Okay. They applied a uniform yes to no ratio in every batch, regardless of how people voted for president. That's what happened. Okay. In the new cast vote record, they did their homework and they used the seesaw to repair it. Okay.
But how technically speaking did they use the seesaw? What did they use?
How would they have done it?
Well, what was the method? So they call they have a tech guy who knows what he's doing. He goes in there And what does he do? He goes through manually
They had an
changes
Eric
it.
Coomer.
They have an AI system that goes through and does it that way. Like what physically did they do? And it's not totally physically, it's through the data. But what did they do to change?
That's
How
a
did they
really
achieve it?
long conversation. Yeah, and it requires a lot of math.
Could it have been done without the system?
Was the
No,
system
they-
set up that way from the beginning? Is that what it was?
Yeah, you just have. I mean, you literally set up the computer system.
So the parameters are
Dominion.
already going to put out this result no matter what. They don't have to.
Yeah, we saw this in Mesa County. We saw in Mesa County how they had a separate database and a MySQL management software next to it. So they found a separate database of voters on the system when they went to Mesa County.
So they hire someone who knows what they're doing. They go to the computer systems that are going to be.
No, there's no separate database of voters.
Okay.
There is separate processing databases. This has nothing to do with voters, which is a processing database where the information goes after it's been tabulated. Then it goes to a totals database. The intermediary databases, there was an extra set of them with a discrepancy between the two sets. That's all it was.
So they upload the data afterwards, basically, to say that when the actual vote was never fully calculated or used.
We don't know that the data that came out of the voting system is the same data that was handed as part of this cast vote record.
Okay.
It could have come out of the voting system perfectly, and then someone could have changed that cast vote record before it was released to the public. The voting system
on election day, but
actually
manipulation at all.
Actually,
we don't know that right now.
Technically, that couldn't be true. I mean, it could have left the machine in the right way and went and been changed when it went through Dominion system, correct?
It could have left the tabulators the right way. It could have gone into the Dominion system and left that the right way. And then someone could have manipulated the data after it came out of the Dominion system.
And when you say
we do not right now have any evidence to show that it was done inside the Dominion system.
Hold on a second.
I would love to have that, though.
So hold on a second. Before you say that there's nothing that says that that's the case. Okay. Before you say that, it leaves Dominion and goes to Seidel, right?
No, nope. It
goes from the precinct to the. I'm sorry.
No, if they're doing central tabulation, which I believe they're doing in Arapahoe County. They bring it back and centrally tabulate it in Arapahoe County. It goes from the tabulators. They're probably connected directly to the EMS server. Goes into the database. The clerk.
Well, you said probably. Have you read the manual for this, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of manuals, but each county can have a different type of system. They have different components. Like Microsoft Office is a suite of Excel and Word and PowerPoint. Same thing, Dominion, D Suite, the reason they call it Suite, D Suite, Dominion Suite, is it's a suite of software products to conduct an election. And counties can mix and match which software products they want to put together to conduct their elections. So all we know is we have a cast vote record that the county released, and it has really obviously wrong data, inorganic data, impossible data. We saw that originally, Ed saw it. And then before we could even get a court to look at it, all of a sudden the county releases a new cast vote record, which is entirely different. 15.8 million votes changed inside the second cast vote record. And the county, their excuse was, oh, well, we made a mistake when we were doing the redaction process. And so we had to release a new one. And that was just a couple months ago, even though this other one had been out for like 4 years.
Hold on a
So
second.
we
You
still
just
don't
said
know where the data came from, though. That's what I want to know.
And there's only a few hours, right, between when the election ends and when it is revealed to the public what the results were. So we're saying that it's possible between those few hours is when they shifted it. That's what we're believing.
No. Listen. You have several problems that you have to overcome with it not happening within the Dominion system. Okay. One, all of the settings on the Dominion systems for even down to the what's it called? Antivirus was all set so low that it overrode itself within hours, correct?
What overwrote? Are you talking about some of the logs?
Log files, yes.
I think you're talking about some of the log files. Yeah, some
Yeah.
of the log files are set up with such a small retention, and they're set up in a way that the oldest records get overwritten and the system just keeps on going, which is against the standards. The standards should stop the system from operating when the log file fills up rather than removing entries.
Okay.
But that's just some of the log files.
Can I save you guys both a lot of time?
Yeah.
Sure.
The reason I don't answer these questions is because I don't have to. I have everybody voting the same in every batch. It's rigged. The people who have to answer these questions are the people who were responsible for the election.
That is correct.
When they give us a false answer,
Hold on.
I prove them liars, and they have to give us a new false answer
Listen,
until they get convicted.
listen to me. Listen to me. But you know, words matter, and this actually matters. The cast vote records for, even if it's centralized, Mark, still came out of Arapahoe County, and the cast vote records were a recording of how people voted over time, correct?
That's what it's supposed to be, but we don't know if the cast vote record that the county released is the same data that came out of the Dominion system.
Oh, which time?
Anytime.
At any time, it doesn't matter.
But that's the way the cast vote record is supposed to be recorded. That
Well, we
cast
know
vote
how it's
record
supposed to
comes
be,
from
but we don't
Dominion.
know. No, the cast vote record. So the Dominion software can export a cast vote record. Once it's exported that record, the county could take that and hand it to everyone, or someone there could manipulate that cast vote record.
You can do it in
before.
Excel.
Come
You
on,
can
man.
do it in Excel. You can.
Stop.
Joe,
Why are
I
we
just-
opening a door for Dominion to even
this
say?
is why we don't answer these questions, Joe, because I don't care about answering these questions. Let the
It
enemy
doesn't
answer
matter.
them.
Right. The data shows it's manipulated. So we work backwards from that. We know the data is manipulated. Where the hell did the data come from?
But they
The
won't
county
answer
needs
that
to tell us
question. So
where
you
the
have to be
data
able to.
came from.
I think the honesty is good though, because we're not claiming we know. We can see it clearly happen based on the data. We don't know, was it after, was it during the election, but either way we know it happened. I think that's good. I mean, that shows that's a good thing to not know and say we don't know. But if once we find out, and it will all come out, and then at that point we'll be able to say, here we go, look at that.
And I would love to blame it on Dominion.
It probably
but
was.
I can't blame it on Dominion if I don't know for a fact that it was Dominion's fault.
But let's
So
put it this
may
way.
be. It may be. I don't know.
It's not just Dominion. They're all the substructures of all the companies: ES&S, Smartmatic, Hart InterCivic, Dominion. They're all the same.
They all have problems, but in this instance, what we need to do is the county needs to walk us through backwards exactly how this data showed up, because that is the key. That's the key for everyone to figure this out and see it. And that's what the county doesn't want to happen. They don't want anyone actually looking to determine where these numbers came from. Because if we find out where the numbers came from, we find out who's causing it and where it's caused.
And
But this
go
This
ahead,
is
Ed.
exactly what we told the judge in Andy Thompson versus Secretary of State of Nevada. We're not going to speculate on what did or didn't happen. We're just going to report to you your own data, which says what happened. And then when it comes to who, what, when, where, how, and how, you're going to tell the people that have the executive authority to conduct and search seizures and subpoena people and arrest people and interrogate people, because that's not me. I don't have the power to arrest people. I don't have the power to execute search warrants, to serve search warrants, to execute arrests, to serve arrest warrants. Only the people only the elected, only the lawful authorities can get the answers to these questions, Joe. I can't answer that from a spreadsheet of vote totals, but I can tell you what happened. Just like a body washing up on a shore with 10 stab wounds to the jugular. I don't know who murdered him. I don't know why they murdered him. I don't even know when, because I'm not a coroner. I don't know where, but I do know what happened. The guy got murdered. There's 10 stab wounds to the jugular, and I'm reporting a crime.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my issue as I look through this. And by the way, let's bring Draza on. I don't think she's going to join us via video, but if we could just put up there,
I'll be right back.
Draza's actually joining us on this call as well. So I want to be really clear. I can't say that the cast vote records came from the Dominion machine, but Arapahoe County is saying that they came from the machine.
Well, wouldn't they still be complicit either way? Because if they know the real results, and then the county changes it and they don't say anything, they're complicit either way.
But
There's really no way to scapegoat around
keep
that.
trying to walk around the facts, right? Look, at some point, you have to say one of two things. Either everyone is in on it, or one person is in on it, and you only need a system that can do it. The chances of everyone in Arapahoe County and everywhere else, all these other counties, being involved in something that had to the 90th power, 1 million to the 90th power, right? Or 10 to the 964th power. The chances of finding that many people that would be in on stealing the election would be nil.
No,
But
Arapahoe needs to explain themselves. They need to explain themselves, period.
But Mesa should explain themselves. Denver should explain themselves. El Paso County should explain themselves. They can't explain themselves because it's literally systemic. And
they need to be forced to.
That's my point. Draza, welcome to the show.
Hello, can you hear me?
Got Draza
We got
on.
you.
Good. Thank you guys for having me on. It's good to see everybody.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see me. No, it's not good to see me. That's why we're only talking right now. So I'm listening to everything everybody says, and I have a theory about what actually happened. It's kind of an Occam's razor kind of thing. So when you look at the data that comes from Arapahoe County, the first one that was produced, I believe, truly was an error, at least from what I can see. So if they pull the data out into an Excel sheet, and then you highlight the first column, and you got the column highlighted, and then you hit tab, when you hit tab over, when you're using Excel, it'll stop when you get to the first blank cell, right? So 80 columns over, or whatever it was, 40 columns, I can't remember how many, it hit a blank cell. So when they sorted, instead of by cast vote record, they sorted by ballot style. And then when they sorted by ballot style, that is how they found the ballot style that was from the small precincts that they were supposed to redact. So they go down and they find that ballot style and they highlight the rows. And when they redact those rows, then they remove all the votes that they were supposed to redact, but they're removing half of the ones that remain linked to this cast vote record number and half of the ones that were associated with another ballot that didn't get twisted. So that caused a disjoint between the federal elections and the down ballot races. So that may be a little disheartening to hear. So when they took and they did it correctly, there were some ballots that appeared to be changed because they didn't have the same like president and down ballot, but that's because those were part of the ones that shouldn't have been redacted in the down ballots but got redacted when it did the twist. So the good news is that they published the new one that had been done correctly in the ballot order. Now, what that allowed us to see, and what Ed's been working on, what a lot of people have been working on, is what we found. And what we found that's so beautiful is the fact that the parallel motion may not have been the votes, but the parallel motion is the artifact of the structured cheat that's happening. So one of the things that's that I hate hearing is I hate people say about that we've got anomalies in our election systems. We don't have anomalies. We, at this point in time, have exactly expected, predictable, illogical events. They're not what you would expect. They don't match the opinions of the people that you're talking to, but they happen the same way over and over again. And the people that you didn't think were going to win 51-49. Try again next time, just vote harder. But it's a structure, and we can identify the structure. And the parallel motion now is a test that validates that the structure is there, because now we can open up any cast vote record. And if we do the Arapahoe twist, if we highlight the cast vote record numbers in the president's race or the governor's race, whatever's the highest, we sort that by ballot style, we induce the partisan parallel motion that Ed so brilliantly discovered because of the structure that's always there and because the elections are fake.
Okay, so let's say everything that you're saying is true. How in the world would you have? And by the way, this is what the same thing we found in Nevada, same thing we found in Colorado. There's other states we could apply the same formula to Georgia. You can look at some of the ES&S findings that are coming out of different states that'll match the same motion. Let's say it's true. Okay, let's say that everything that we're saying is true.
Well, it's clearly being done by software. It's not being done by humans.
That's what I want to know. How this could not be done. And you have a system that is designed to steal elections. You can tell me anything you want, but this should be. I understand Dominion really well, but it's hard to.
And it's a 99.999% chance it is Dominion and ES&S and everybody else.
Because all the people just float from organization to organization. And it's already been proven that every time something goes wrong, they say, "Oh, oops, it was a user error." Like we're having an airplane crash, right? And then you put something against it, and it shows that it's algorithmic. And all of a sudden, they're like, "Oh yeah, they're not switching votes." No, they weren't switching votes. They were just creating a fraudulent election. And now we have a thing that comes out that talks about China, and Chris Wray lied. And everyone's lying. Everyone is lying to the American people. There's absolutely zero people on their side that are curious about any outcome. They just get away from me.
But here's the thing, like if the voting software companies like Dominion have nothing to do with this, then they should be on this program with us saying, "Wow, this is crazy. Who did this? It wasn't us." And we agree that can't happen in a fair election.
I agree. Where's Dominion? I'd like answers. They should be able to answer these questions for us.
I have a thought experiment for you.
Okay.
And that's how I'm able to accuse them. But it's not through the spreadsheet. It's just through the circumstantial evidence that everybody understands. Okay.
Yes. Sorry, Jonathan. Go ahead.
No. So let's say that you're running track in a high school. Okay. And you are going to start and you're going to run a lap. When you start that lap, you know exactly where the end of the lap's going to be, right? Right. It's going to be right where you started, right? That's one lap.
Yes.
Now, if you are given a set number of steps to take, you can figure out which lap you're going to take, right? Right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if halfway through you realize you need more steps, you'd just take a side step into the longer route that is going to allow you to have more steps, right?
Yes.
But it's going to end you up at the same place. Your lap is going to be the same place. So if we draw a parallel to an election and we have it set up in a manner so that the election allows you to set that your outcome's going to be 51-49. Then we predict who's going to come out and vote, and we set it up and we send in some mail-in ballots. And then if you guys get all feisty and more people turn out, well, we just have to send in more ballots. We just keep counting and we go into the bigger ring and you just have a higher turnout at the same predicted point because that's the way an algorithm would work.
So based on what you're telling me and based on what we're seeing, why is it President Trump? Why is it why are we still here?
Well, that's the amazing question, right? When you have lockstep parallel motion, or just let me share my screen. I love the Maryland picture. The Maryland's my favorite. What you see here. Everybody sees Maryland here?
Yes.
Okay, so what you're seeing here, I'm only looking at Trump voters in Maryland. This is the 6th congressional district in Frederick County. This happens in every congressional district, in every county, in every precinct in Maryland, but this is the one I have. It says that 75% of Trump voters are against abortion in the early vote here. Okay. Then for some reason, they fall down to 60% against abortion in the election day vote from here to here. And then they fall down to 48% against abortion in the second mail-in vote, even though in the first mail-in vote, they happened before the early vote, they were also 75% against abortion. So we went from 75% against abortion in the first mail-in vote here to 48% against abortion amongst Trump voters only in the second mail-in vote, and then we dropped to 60% on election day. And that happened in Nevada, Colorado, and in Nevada. Okay, Nevada, Maryland, and Colorado. I have 3 different states, the same pattern of Republicans randomly dropping from a 3 to 1 or a 4 to 1 ratio to a 1 to 1 ratio against abortion. Meanwhile, Kamala voters are sitting here at only 5% against abortion the entire election in all 3 states. Now, these are late-term abortion. These are third trimester abortion amendments, okay? I have a lot of Democrats in my family that voted for Kamala. I know a lot of Democrats. I live in New York for my entire life. If I were to ask any Democrat who actually lives and breathes, do you support third trimester abortions? I'm going to get a unanimous 85 to 90% no. So why does it say that only 5% of Kamala voters voted against late-term abortions?
This is where you can flip ballots, and that's why having a Runback or a Continental or one of those ballot printing companies becomes so effective, because they can print and send ballots, and you'd never have the ability to validate it because it's a secret ballot. Because
now here is Hogan. Hogan is a Republican who ran for senator in Maryland 2024. He's a never Trumper, so he performed better than Trump, supposedly in the cast vote record. But if you look at how Hogan voters voted on abortion, okay, they went from 63% no, as opposed to 75% no for Trump, to 45% no, as opposed to 60% no for Trump, and they went down to 37% against abortion, as opposed to 48% against abortion in the mail-in vote. Okay. So at first, when I first saw this, before I saw this one on the right, I thought, well, maybe Hogan was picking up a lot of Democrats or something, right? So the Democrat preference for abortion was bleeding into the Republican preference because they were voting for Hogan. But look at the purple line is Hogan's share of the vote. Okay, well, it's 66% for early and mail-in, and then it drops down to 33%. So he in the mail. So he didn't pick up any more Democrats than Trump or Perot. Okay, so at the end of the day, why do we have Republicans, whether they're voting for Hogan, who was a never Trumper, or they're voting for Trump or Neil Parrott, who is a MAGA guy, why are they dropping from 75% early and in the first mail-in vote to 60% election day, to 48% in the mail, or for Hogan, 63% early to 50% election day to 37% in the mail? And you get this in every single precinct, every legislative district, every U.S. House district, every state Senate district, every part of Maryland, all 1,800 precincts in every county. This happens, and it happens in Nevada, and it happens in Colorado on abortion in 2024. So Trump didn't beat the rig in 2024. He survived it somehow.
I would agree. And I think they actually gave it to him to appease most of the people in the country. So everyone was high-fiving, so they'd stop focusing on the elections. And so they could say, hey, all you election deniers, see, you're crazy. If there was election rigging, Trump wouldn't have won. I think it was a strategic move. And I've been telling people that for 2 years prior to the election, that was what they were going to do.
And they're still stealing elections. I mean, we had the case in Pennsylvania, Lancaster
of course,
County.
They stole all the down ballots too, and they're going to keep stealing them until we move the elections back into the hands of the people where they belong. We will never fix this problem by patching it together. It's not patchable.
How do we move the election back into the hands of the people? How do we do that? What are the steps we have to take in order for that to happen?
The only way that happens is the Supreme Court has to rule on Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, which reads, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. We show the Supreme Court that software abuses elections. Therefore, we don't have a Republican form of government, because any state whose elections are neither free nor fair cannot be Republican in form. And then the Supreme Court bans software and Turing machines from tabulating votes from now until the end of time. That's how
you got to get rid of the mail-in ballots because there's no transparency.
Well, it's not just the software; it's the entire ecosystem is out of control of the citizens, and elections belong to the people.
Well, mail-in ballots are already mail-in ballots fall under the same thing. Nobody can verify who filled out that ballot. Okay.
Nobody even understands the entire process all the way through. That's the biggest problem also, but that's by design because they don't want people to understand how the whole thing works, because if people understood how it all worked, people would figure out it's not working in their favor.
For an election to be free and fair and to honor the guarantee clause, it has to be observable, it has to be verifiable, and it has to be challengeable in a court. Okay. So the only thing that's verifiable is election day voting, one day only in the precinct. That way we know that people are in the precinct, are coming there, they live there. Okay. You can observe the count of the ballots at a precinct level. It's decentralized. And that's really, is it verifiable and is it observable? Okay. Election day voting, one day only, is the only form of voting that can be verified and observed by the population. Even early voting doesn't make that standard, because for early voting to be verifiable, you would have to have citizens organize posses to watch the ballots day in and day out at the precinct until the beginning, from the beginning to the end of election month. That's too much of a burden to put on the citizens. So you just go back to one day only. Imagine that. It's called election day instead of election season. And you just count the ballots at a local precinct level. You have a Democrat and a Republican Party, election judge that counts the ballots in full, meaningful public view, so you can see it. And then you report it to the county clerk, who reports it to the Secretary of State, and that's it. We have to go back to that. Hand-counted paper ballots on election day and election day only at your precinct. That's how we stop this problem.
And I've laid the whole thing out. If people go to handcountroadshow.org, just go to that website, click on the big red button. I've laid out step by step of what we need to do to return every part of the election ecosystem, all of it, to not only just the hands of the citizens, but also move our voter rolls, which we know are an abuse vector for these elections, a massive abuse vector. It moves them back to our county officials and makes them transparent for all the citizens to have the proper oversight. And it takes the state control out of it. It takes the federal control out of it. It takes the corporate control out of it. And it takes all these stupid NGOs control out of it, right into the hands of the people, like it was originally designed to be. Handcountroadshow.org. Big fat red button right there. That's how we do it.
The most remarkable thing, when we do eventually force a hand ballot switch, which we will do, we're going to keep fighting until we do. But the most remarkable thing will be that it's all of a sudden going to be a way faster election now. It's going to be faster. It's going to be clearer, more efficient. Everything will get better about it. There's no advantage to the way that it's being done right now, except cheating and propping up Democrats. That is it. So I'm very excited to see what the future holds.
Does anybody think, if somebody gave us a cast vote record of a hand count, like let's say after the hand count, they scanned it through a machine and made a cast vote record first. Does anybody think you would see lockstep parallel motion at?
No chance.
No, of course not. And by the way, it's not Democrats. It's not just Democrats. We're getting effed by Democrats and Republicans. We're getting effed by the election industrial complex that has total control of this. While they've got us pitted against each other, they're screwing all of us. And that's what people have to get through their heads.
Yeah,
that's absolutely look at the ballot propositions, right? They made Democrats vote 5% against late-term abortions, meaning 95% in favor. Do you know how many real-life Democrats got screwed by that? Because I don't know any real life breathing Democrats that support third trimester abortions.
No, I've got Democrats calling me saying, Mark, will you still talk to me even though I'm a Democrat? I think my election got stolen. Yes, no shit.
Yes, it probably
All our
did.
elections. The American citizens' elections are getting stolen because, as George Carlin said it best, it's a big club and we ain't in it.
In fact, according to
That's
the
the problem.
numbers, if you project what the original results were before the rig, the red counties have the most fraud in them
Yes.
And that's an
by
important point.
far.
And I said
far.
Democrats, but
Yeah.
I want to make sure to be as clear as possible that all of the rhino Republicans, the weak, feckless pieces of crap who are in office claiming to be on our side and destroying our country at every turn, taking money at every turn, pumping up the debt more, how many of them were propped up by the fake system? How many of them right now on our supposed side got there because of that? That would be a remarkable story to tell.
Yeah, Draza, you've been a little quiet. Talk to us.
But I'm listening to everything because we're all starting to sing the same song at our just with our own little twist to it because we've done so much research and we're all seeing the same things. I'm actually very pleased. I don't agree with them 100%, but I'm very pleased that I've started to see some Democrat election integrity groups now that don't believe what happened in the 2024 election because they were lied to so much about the 2020 election. And it just thrills me. I'm like, yes, join us. Let's all investigate together. Let's all see what's going on. And then when we all understand what's been happening to all of us, I think that's a fantastic thing.
One of the other funny things is that they think this is some like super extremist Hitler right wing thing. I used to be a Democrat. I'm in New York, right? In fact, the only thing I've changed my stance on really in the last 10, 20 years is on the Second Amendment, which I fully support, and on abortion. Everything else, I think we would all have a huge argument, okay, about politics.
And
but
voting.
It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't, to me, that's not even a partisan thing. But it doesn't matter what our agreements are or aren't if we're not having fair elections. If we can't decide the majority consensus at the ballot box on who's right or wrong, there's no point in me even discussing my political differences with you guys. Okay,
it's a waste of time because you can't have any dialogue because it's not decided by us anyway.
Right, and this is the thing. I get people that go, "Oh, well, whether the elections are rigged or not, I don't really care. I just want to fight for pro-life, or I just want to fight for the Second Amendment, or I just want to fight to keep the close our borders." What are you fighting for? None of that's going to get fixed so long as you have rigged elections. So I don't know why anybody's wasting their time as an activist on any cause while we have rigged elections.
I think this is really what it comes down to. And just so everyone knows, this is why I say that war and genocide of people, 38,000 people in Gaza were mowed down. Women and children were mowed down.
Possibly more than that, too. We're hearing the numbers. It could be as high as 400,000. That's an estimate. We don't know for sure. We'll never be able to know for sure because the people who can count it, people who are reporting, a lot of them are dead, too. So it's very, very difficult to actually understand this. Probably way bigger.
100%. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, and I didn't even consider that. I just considered the report that came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago, where they said it was 38,000. Even if it's 2,000, right? I mean, it's just it's disgusting that we built an entire organization on Save Darfur, which was, by the way, made up genocide and ethnic cleansing in northwestern Sudan. And now we're talking about potentially 400,000, 38,000, and somewhere between 38,000 and 400,000 people being mowed down. And we had to they turned that entire area to glass. Again, we bombed Iran. We have not solved the problem between Ukraine and Russia. Yet we sent Lindsey Graham over there, who created all sorts of problems for us. 2 days later, they're sending drones into Russia and causing more conflict. You have what's going on with Israel and pretty much every country in the Middle East. With Mossad and these faithless people, not with the people of Israel. They want peace, right? And now here we are constantly talking about foreign policy. Get rid of the illegals. Our Tren Lawagwa gang, you have the FBI talking about that. And the elephant in the room, Mark, Ed, Draza, the elephant in the room is that we don't have free and fair elections. This is all just a play. We're just,
To me,
we're
it's
not-
all kabuki theater to make sure
Yep.
people aren't thinking about elections.
Correct. All of it is. And we're going to see all that coming up to this 26 because it's all coming to head. They know that we know. They don't care. They're not giving up their system of control because it's their system of control for decades. And they've just made it better and better. And all they care about is that the people believe that it works. Because as long as the people believe the illusion that they put on, then they'll keep the system in place. As soon as the people realize it's nothing but an illusion, it's nothing but a magic show, the people will rise up and get rid of this system. And that's the system that they've used to maintain all their control.
Now,
So
I want to
that's
say
why it's coming to head.
I want to say one thing on this. So about the who, what, when, where, why, and how. We will never figure out who did this, why they did it, when they did it, until we first get rid of the machines and the software itself. So we don't have to prove who did it right now. We don't have to prove why they did it or when and where they did it. We already have sufficient evidence beyond a reasonable doubt from their own cast vote records to prove that there is something wrong and all the software has to be getting rid of. Okay, so our first focus has to be on removing software and machines from our elections. Once we have a fair election and we have the correct people in office, then we can talk about going after and prosecuting the people who rigged our elections in the past. Until then, there's no point in even trying.
Yeah,
I just
so
wanted to say that.
Go
what
ahead,
people have to understand is that we understand what's going on so well now with with the structure of the votes. We can almost fully simulate the elections. We can tell you, we can do a simulation of how the election is going to turn out before it starts. And it's structured so that it it pacifies the person because they're thinking that they had a vote, they're thinking that they had a say, and they didn't. And it divides the communities because now you're wondering which 51% of the people in your neighborhood chose that. So it's not only just a counting problem, it's a structure problem that has been done so to divide the people and to prevent people from questioning because it is so demoralizing. And that part is one of the first things that needs to overcome because I might not be the best engineer in the world. I know more people that are better than I am, but why are they not jumping on? Why are they not validating all these math? Where are all these experts that could in a heartbeat, validate everything and join in and verify and say, yes, this is what's happening? They're all totally demoralized. What difference does it make?
Well, all they have to do is download the public certified cast vote record, pop in those columns, open those bid-and gates, Trump yes, Trump no, or some Democrat no, some Republican yes or no on a ballot proposition. Then you print the percentage and graph it, and bang, you're going to see everybody acting crazy on ballot propositions.
It is brilliant what these people did. It really is. And it's amazing they got away with it as long as they did. They never wanted us to look at this. And that's why they freaked out when Tina Peters caused people to start doubting the election, start questioning the elections. And we got a look into the insides of these things and realized how horribly vulnerable they are and susceptible to this type of manipulation. And
Well,
that's
hold
why
on.
they went after her. That's why they attacked her. That's why they've tried to imprison her, because she was
Not
the
tried,
key.
they have.
They have. And that is, she's the key to the citizens of this country realizing that the people that are actually ruling over them are there because of a system of control that the citizens themselves paid for and to this point have been believing worked. It's a con job. Our elections are an effing con. And when people finally realize it, then we will affect the change we need. So I've had people that come to my presentations, come in as skeptics, not believing it, thinking, oh, I think we can still have computers. I'll tell you what, there isn't a single person that leaves one of my presentations that still thinks that the same way when they walked in. When they leave, they realize, oh my gosh, I did not understand this the way that I do now. We absolutely have to disconnect all of these systems and go back to something simple, transparent, and 100% verifiable by every American citizen out there, regardless of their knowledge, their experience, or their intelligence. It doesn't matter. Simple. We're counting dots on a piece of paper. We add the dots up, and whoever has the most dots wins. That's it. And we need to make sure the people putting the dots on the paper are eligible voters in the county. That's it. There's your whole scope for the elections. This is madness. 4 years, 5 years of this stupid madness to count dots on a piece of paper. We got to collectively pull our heads out of our asses and take back control of our elections so we can save this country.
And here's the other thing on what Mark is saying. You know, my number one argument against software and machines and is because they require mathematics and computer programming to understand. So mathematics and computer programming, they're not general skills of the public, and they're not general skills of judges and jurors, or even of attorneys, or of law enforcement. Okay, how many cops do you know that have written you a speeding ticket? Know how to use Excel and graph these ratios. Okay, so my main argument against the current infrastructure is that even if it was fair and counting the votes accurately, it would still be unconstitutional because it's beyond the comprehension and the skill set of the ordinary citizen, the ordinary law enforcement officers, and the courts. So, you know, the AG says Edward Solomon's math is inscrutable. Well, then you shouldn't be using Turing machines, which means computers that are programmable, to conduct our elections, because if something goes wrong with those Turing machines, then it requires a lot of math and computational language to explain to the court what went wrong with them. So you can't say Ed Solomon can't admit math to the courtroom, because if that's true, it's called equitable estoppel. Then you can't use that which can't be used in court to count our votes.
You know, I think we're all just crazy conspiracy theorists, because there's no way they would never decide to throw, in order to cover all this up, a 69-year-old Gold Star mom in prison and then make her walk back and forth while she has back pain. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't then go after you, Ed, and try to sue you and try to cover it up and try to financially destroy you and ruin so many people.
They will never try to sue me.
They wouldn't do that. None of that is real. There's not people that evil out there. We're all just crazy. You know, no one really cares that much about the elections. They're not trying to take over the country and slowly infiltrate it. It's all nonsense. Obviously, I mean, of course, I'm being sarcastic. It's just the evidence is so overwhelming at this point. You can't look at it any other way.
They did try to frame me for perjury in that Nevada court case. Okay, so when our Arapaho data, the original cast vote record with the lockstep motion, that was already submitted in December to the courts in Nevada under penalty of perjury, okay, as true and correct as to what the county gave everybody publicly. They then went and changed that cast vote record without ever telling the judge or the plaintiff or me. And they were hoping that I was going to go to trial and testify again under penalty of perjury that data was true and authentic as it appears on the county recorder's website. And then I would have got screwed had I not caught them changing the cast vote record. That was their plan.
And they, I mean, it's like the Scooby-Doo meme. They would have almost got away. They almost got away with it if it wasn't for those pesky Joe Altmans over there. You know, I mean, it's a beautiful thing that we have this platform to be able to call it out, and I really enjoy hearing.
Well, speaking of Joe Altman, he's the one that asked me to look at ballot propositions, and at first I sort of rolled my eyes and I said, I don't know what that could ever tell us if they're rigging the Trump to Biden ratio to begin with, right?
It's so bad.
It tells us a lot.
They're rigging it at every single level.
From president to dog catcher. From president to dog catcher, from abortion to raising your taxes to ranked choice voting to grabbing your gun amendments. The whole damn thing is rigged. Down the whole ballot is. This is the thing. People say the elections are rigged. Nay, it's worse than that. They're synthetically engineered. They're not rigging. It's not like they're taking an authentic result and then modifying a little bit to get what they want. They're completely synthetically engineering the entire election from start to finish.
But they blend real data to make it believable because it's an illusion.
But basically,
that's why people don't believe that this is actually happening, because there's bits and pieces of truth in it. So they see that and they say, well, it's got to be right. There's no way anyone could be doing this. But they are absolutely fully engineered elections. And they have been, and they get better and better at it as time goes on. And the next iteration, here's what they're going to do. So everyone hit record, because this is what's going to happen. They are going to say, you know what, y'all are right. There is a problem with these systems. So we're going to solve that problem. We've got a solution. Here it is. We're going to vote on mobile. We're going to vote on your phone now, and we're going to use quantum and blockchain, and everything's going to be wonderful. And you're going to have instant results. It'll be even faster. It's the same scam, the same bullshit they've been passing every time they move citizens further and further away from their ballot. It's the same shit. And I'm going to tell you all, they have the systems already live. They have created the software. They've created the systems. They're just looking for the trigger point to put it in place. And they're going to start with our disabled. They're going to say, no, it's for disabled people to make it easier for them to vote. And if anyone counters that, well, you must hate disabled people. So that's how they roll it in. That's how they always use the vulnerable to squeeze these things right in. And then once they have it in place, they're going to say, oh, well, it's good for everyone. We'll just use it for everyone. Citizens of the United States of America, that is what is about to happen to your elections. They're about to be taken fully from you, including our election officials. There'll be no need for clerks. There'll be no need for poll watchers. We'll lose total control of our entire elections and therefore our entire country, and it's right around the corner. So y'all better open your eyes and pull your heads out of your asses, because now is the moment. We have a sliver that God has given us to take and seize control of our elections and count our own dots.
There won't even be cast vote records when they do that.
There'll be nothing. There'll be nothing. Right? They'll just have a green check mark or a red X.
A blue or a red check mark.
You got it. And yeah, the green check mark means our elections are perfectly safe. See, there's a green check mark. You're good to go. That's what's happening. That's the reality. People have to open their eyes. So I got to get going for a presentation, but I do want to tell people this. Hand Count Roadshow. Hold on, Ed. And I'll stay on for another minute, but I want to let people know. handcountroadshow.org is what I'm doing. I'm traveling around the country, county by county, state by state, and I'm bringing this information directly to the people, including election officials, clerks, sheriffs, commissioners, city council, all of the above. I'm talking to them citizen to citizen so they know what's going on. They want to ignore me, well, they can suffer the consequences, and they'll know I told them that one day. But if they happen to listen to me, we just have a chance of saving this. And I would love everyone to be a part of my presentation. So go to handcountroadshow.org, go to Take Action, request a visit. And if you request a visit in your area, fill that up and I'll get you on the route, because I'm spending the next year and a half in this little box on wheels, and I'm going to travel everywhere doing everything I can to save this country. And Ed, go ahead.
Well, they already did something similar to that in Virginia in the 2020 elections. So you had the early in the election day vote in every precinct of Virginia. But the mail-in vote was one giant number for all of the precincts in the county combined. That was in something called a silo, like a mail-in silo. And you have no way of knowing like how anybody voted in the mail-in vote in 2020. It just says the overall percentage, right? No numbers, nothing. And it had a red check mark or a blue check mark for who won or lost the mail-in vote.
It is almost comical when you look at how stupid we have been as a population. I hope our election officials, if you are a good, honest person, you better open your eyes and start looking, or make some phone calls and reach out to me. I'll hook you up with Ed. We'll show you how to look at your own data so you can see this also. But you don't want to live a future where your kids and your grandkids' lives are destroyed because you didn't take action. Because you didn't even take the time to look into this, seriously look into it. It's going to be your fault if this country falls. So
real quick, Mark,
choose wisely.
Are you crowdfunding this, or how are you able to fund doing this?
I'm not crowdfunding. Well, I guess I am crowdfunding it. I am not funded. No organization supports me or takes care of me. I'm going through what's left of my savings account. And I guess I am either going out in a blaze of glory, or maybe God bless the citizens, they can keep me going here. I'm kind of crowd surfing at this point. If anyone can help me, I really appreciate it. I was getting 6.2 miles a gallon today on my way to Vegas. And this thing is a big rig, and it cost me a bit of money to keep this thing going. And I've walked away from my job. And so I have almost no income at this point, and probably going to lose my house. And I'd like to stay in this because I really, truly love this country and I love my fellow citizens. But I need to stay viable. So if anyone can help me stay viable, that's great. There's a little donate link on there. And other than that, I hate asking for help because I'm a very independent person, because most conservatives are, and I'm a proud person, so I don't want to ask for help. But I can only last as long as I can last till my savings account's empty. So, but yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Wow, that's amazing. And you don't sacrifice potentially your home, a lot of your income, a lot of your time. You don't do that over something that isn't real. You do that because you believe it so fully and wholeheartedly that nothing else is more important. And so I commend you for that. We're going to put the link directly on the Untamed X. So everyone can go to it that way, or you can go to, if you want to say it one more time, we can also put it up on the show. But say it one more time.
Sure. Handcountroadshow.org, all one word. And I'll tell you what, I kind of wondered in life, what the heck's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Everyone kind of wonders that at some point in their life. And I didn't know what it was supposed to be. But I knew I wanted to have a big impact. I wanted to do something great. I wanted to leave this place in a better place than I found it. And I also don't like bad guys. I don't like criminals. I don't like people getting taken advantage of. And I've always been a protector. And I'll tell you what, God just put me into this position. He, I guess, primed me my whole life and gave me all those challenges to toughen me up for this experience. There's no other explanation than that. And I'll tell you what, I am proud to make the sacrifice for my fellow citizens, because I know in my heart it is the right thing to do, even if I end up losing everything, which I hope I don't, because I worked real hard my whole life, and I would like to have something out of that at some point so I could continue to help others. But it just has to be done. People have to be brave. And like Joe, what he's risked, and what, Mike Lindell has risked, and what Trump has risked, him and his entire family.
Yeah, I mean,
and
Mike
so
Lindell
many amazing people.
Mike Lindell risked his money and mine. It's really awesome.
All $4 million.
He took $4 million of my money.
Hey.
So there you go.
Well, you know what? That's a wonderful thing he did. And if I could risk your money too, I'd do it for you too, Joe. Don't worry. No,
I want to show you guys Arapahoe County statement on us getting any money real quick.
Yeah,
okay?
Mark, thanks for joining us, brother. I know you got to go.
You're welcome. I'll hang on for as long as I can, but I just want to make sure I got all that out. And thank you very much for hosting this. And it's great to hear from Draza also, because we hung out a lot in the beginning of this, and then we disappeared, and I'm so glad she's still in the fight, because she's brilliant and such a good heart and such an amazing person.
All right, do you guys see this document in front of me from Arapahoe County?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now they don't even mention my name. See, it says his claims. They're talking about me, but they never say my name in this entire press release. Okay, so they say the CVR narrative has already shifted from the claims that were made originally. Joe, have I shifted my claims on these lockstep motion?
No, they're lying.
Oh.
They're lying. They're lying.
But
This,
anyway.
by the way, should be defamatory enough to cause problems for them.
Anyway, so what they say here is one of its earliest proponents are talking about me, who solicits financial support on his social media channels for his efforts. Joe, in the entire 5 years, everybody knows who knows me, I've only done a single GoFundMe fundraiser one time, and I got about $13,000. And that's because like Mark, I was at the end of the line, and I either had to go back to a full-time job while fighting a court case, or I had to drop the court case. So I put up a GoFundMe one time for 2 weeks that returned an amazing $13,000. So if we take $13,000,
you don't have to justify it.
Are you ready?
Yeah, but don't even do it.
Well, watch this. $13,000 divided by 5 years, which is 60 months. I have made a total of $216 a month.
Yeah, but hold on a second. I mean,
now look at this. Well, look at this. They say who solicits financial support on his social media channels.
Yeah.
This is how disgusting they are. Okay? One fundraiser, and now I'm an evil money-grabbing grifter.
Hey, look.
One fundraiser.
I had 100,000 people, $100,000, 140,000. But more importantly, I raised almost $2 million for other people in different environments, but I raised $100,000 for my lawsuit. I'm paying. I'm subject to $1,000 a day in fines now. $1,000 a day.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it cost me selling my company for a couple $100 million. It's cost me millions of dollars in my company. It's cost me, man, I can't even about $1 million in legal fees so far, and yeah, all for this little shitbag Eric Coomer, which fuck him. Just so we're clear, right?
So anyway, the key
Lying sack
takeaway
of
is
shit. So I am a little angry. I probably need a counselor. Who wants to be my counselor? I get a couch down here, and
We got a couple hundred.
Not me.
like here's the thing, guys. Like I'm getting donations from people who really care about this. It's voluntary. I'm not pointing a gun at people and saying,
yeah, but what do you care about that?
If you don't donate to me, okay?
These are crap. These are liars.
Meanwhile, right, exactly. Meanwhile, you have people stealing elections and billions and trillions of dollars from the United States federal government through all kinds of slush funds. And they do that at the barrel of a gun. If you don't pay your taxes, Joe, I'm going to take all your fucking property right now. If you don't like, if you resist me seizing your property for not paying your taxes, then you're going to go to jail. And if you resist that, then I'm going to shoot you. Okay. So when they get in a tizzy over a $13,000 fundraiser, meanwhile, we have people stealing billions and billions and tens of billions of dollars from our government because of rigged elections. I mean, just put these things into perspective. Okay. This is $13,000 voluntary donation.
I know, but we're spending a lot of time on $13,000, and frankly, they can kiss my you know what. The whole idea, the reason why they put that in there is to get you fixated on something you knew wasn't true, and good people will literally do that. So just walk past it because it's bull. But I do want to say this, Ed. The work you've been done is absolutely amazing. Mark, the work you've done is absolutely amazing. Draza, the work you've done and continue to do is absolutely amazing. I got to tell you, we should have this huge reunion, but we've got to get people to the dance. We got to get people to the dance. We got to get people to talk about the fact that every bit of chaos that we're seeing right now, even P. Diddy, which you called that, by the
crazy.
way.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a story there. Everyone could see the writing on the wall who was listening to the way the case was going inside that courtroom, the journalists that were allowed to be there, including someone who I was talking to. They knew it was coming. And so that's a crazy story. Well, we'll definitely have to get into some details on that. And by the way, for everyone watching, for the 40,000 of you watching on BK, for the tens of thousands watching on Rumble, hundreds of thousands on some episodes, for everyone watching on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening, to everyone watching, keep in mind that you are Joel Altman's personal counselor. So you need to be subscribed right now, or else Joe's mental health is going to decline. It's very important. You need to click the subscribe, click the like. Every like helps Joe's mental health. Every single one.
Please, everyone subscribe from me. Please, all subscribe now.
Yeah, because I call Mark and I'm like, Mark, this is bullshit. Mark's like, Joe. And I was like, man, these people are just terrible. They're terrible human beings. I'm going to have to call Draza now, and Draza's going to walk me off the ledge. Okay, Joe, it's fine.
Anyway, the key takeaway from this whole discussion, guys, about a bunch of demonic, satanic pedophiles that are rigging our elections, that want to kill babies with abortion amendments, raise your taxes, take your guns, and they want to diddle little children.
It's funny because of how preposterous it is.
And they want to keep the borders open and everything else. And they want to keep rapists and criminals that are illegal. Yeah, so, open borders, drag queen story hour, late-term abortions, raise your taxes, take your guns. Sounds like I'm a right-wing extremist, even though I'm still on the left on most issues, right? Crazy, right? Because these to me are not partisan issues. They're sanity versus insanity. And for some reason, insanity is winning in our elections with lockstep parallel motion. It's amazing.
I agree. All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Draza, thank you for joining us. We'll do
Thank
this
you for
again.
having me.
All right. See you later, buddy. Man, I told you. I told you that it is so obvious that the people that are making decisions not to handle this are doing so on purpose.
I really commend Mark too, by the way, for what he's doing. I mean, it takes everything you have to be able to go on the road like that. Especially, I mean, if he's being funded by someone, that's different. It's still impressive, but to be doing that self-funded, everyone needs to be going and helping him. I think it's so important we're supporting him and we're doing what we can to make sure that mission, which is extremely important, continues to be carried on.
I agree. We cannot get to the truth except for through the truth, and frankly, that's what we're going to bring you. So we are going to have a couple of congressmen and women on the show next week. We have an interview on Friday, and then tomorrow should be relatively fire. We're going to have some more guests on tomorrow, and just start having conversations. I'd like to get a bunch of Democrats in here. What Mark said is real. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, you're still fighting. Like the Democrats are in charge in Colorado, and yet it's still a shit show. Like they don't get what they want. Why?
I don't know.
Because it's not designed for the people to get what they want. Period. Even the retards can't get what they want.
Maybe we can even get our incredible queen from the Bronx, AOC, to come on the show. AOC, Joe Ottman's flicking off.
I wasn't. I had a scratch.
I imagine he's flicking off something from his eye. He's not.
Yeah.
Nothing going on there. It's not anything bad. But AOC quote tweeted my brother, which is pretty funny. So obviously AOC and my brother are flirting back and forth on X right now.
Are they really?
I could see there could be some chemistry there. I could see it happening. So maybe AOC will come on trying to flirt with my brother more. Maybe
really?
She wants to get.
Did she say something like?
I could see that. It was very flirtatious. Let me just put it that way. I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's some Wallace AOCs in the family in the future. It's okay. Don't worry. AOC will come around. We'll get her to come around. Once she joins the Wallace family, then she'll come around slowly over time.
I was going to crack a joke that had nothing to do with coming around, but I'm not doing it. I'm going to stay clean.
Yeah, we're too close in the show to the prayer to.
Yes,
to do
we
that.
are. We are way too close to the prayer. Lord, forgive me for even thinking it. But she should choke. Oh, guess who gets to pray today?
It would be, I believe, myself.
We have no free and fair elections. Wait till you see some of the other stuff we have. Raul, who used to work. We have all the receipts. We even had everyone's social. We had people. We have a whole book of social security numbers and data that we got from Raul overseas that they used. He even had the receipts of the companies that were CIA companies that he worked for. We presented all of this, and in 2021, and nothing, because they want to make sure that we're not talking about COVID-19 being under a city or something. It's crazy. It's crazy. The incredible are credible, and the credible are incredible or uncredible to these asshats. There you go. I want my money back.
Yeah, we'll accept checks. We'll accept checks, cash. If you want to deliver it in pennies.
We've been trying to go through this lawsuit stuff to sue different organizations and stuff. So we're having to watch paint dry as we collect all the data on it. It's been crazy.
If I started a new country, the legal system would look nothing like this. It's so corrupt. It's so bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and do the prayer.
Right,
dear Lord, please be with Mark as he travels, protect him, watch over him, and allow him to continue spreading the message that he is to as many people as possible. Help him to be able to find the funding, the food, whatever he needs to be able to keep going on this mission as he tries to leave a mark on earth that is positive, and he's doing an incredible job of that. Protect Ed as well as he continues looking into the election. Very bad people trying to stop him, going after him, people that I think are as evil as it can possibly get, and he needs as much protection as you can possibly give him right now in order to be able to continue to fight these monsters. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. You can even go to Apple Podcast. Go over, give us a 5-star review. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Yes, for those of you that are having trouble on Rumble again, we know. Yeah, we know. And shout out to my man over at Rumble, who no longer is at Rumble. He was there for 7 years. Siraj was there for 7 years, was working with us, and all of a sudden he left. There, he was anyway. Lots of stuff happening at Rumble. So we'll see how that ends up. And for all you guys who are on X, it's good to see you all. Make sure that you follow us, follow Matt, follow myself, follow Untamed. We will see you tomorrow. Mañana. Later, Gator.